Typical British weather. You've just got all your plants in your unheated greenhouse and they're growing nicely, and a frost is predicted. Do you need to panic? Well, it depends what kind of frost it is. There are two kinds of frost. There's a ground frost and an air frost. Ground frosts are easier to protect your plants from, so you need to know which one it is. Ground frosts, should I worry? Thing is, ground frosts are not quite as dangerous as air frosts, and there's things you can do to prevent them. So ground frost forms is when the ground or your plants lose heat overnight. And as they lose heat, gradually by the morning, they're cold enough for a frost to develop on them. What you will notice is that you can get a ground frost without an air frost. Ground frosts are actually quite a short period as well. They might only last for half an hour or an hour in the morning and then be gone as soon as the sun comes up. Also, what you'll notice when you see a ground frost is that quite often patches of the ground don't have any frost, and you'll see usually they're underneath a tree or under a hedge, and they're kind of protected somehow. That gives you a clue as to how you can prevent ground frosts. You just need to stop some of the air being lost to the atmosphere at night. So an unheated greenhouse will do that. A ground frost will probably not penetrate an unheated greenhouse. Some fleece over your plants is enough to keep 2 or 3 degrees of frost away. Sometimes all you need to do is lift them higher. So a ground frost might actually only be at ground level. And say a patio pot might survive where something planted in the ground might not. So ground frosts can be prevented. The thing is, quite often in the weather forecast, they never mention them. So you need to be aware of it yourself. So what you're looking for is clear, still nights, and that might create a ground frost. We've seen ground frosts in May and June. Quite often we start work very early if it's hot, and you can come in at sunrise and find that the ground is slightly frozen, and within 10 minutes it's gone again. So lying in your bed, getting up at 9 o'clock, you might never even have known that a ground frost happened. So ground frost is something you need to watch out for, and you can protect it with fleece. Air frosts, don't need to worry. Well, you do, because they're much more damaging. So an air frost is caused when the actual air temperature drops below freezing. And it's much more penetrating, so it can get inside an unheated greenhouse, a cold frame, down into the ground. It can actually freeze pots that are standing outside. So you need to be much more careful. So you're sitting there having your tea and the weatherman comes on and says, "Oh, there's a frost tonight, be careful." Unfortunately, they're not entirely clear what they mean. Sometimes they mean a ground frost and sometimes they mean an air frost. So your best bet is to go online, go on the Met Office and check whether it's actually an air frost or a ground frost. A ground frost occurs at ground level and is not as damaging. A bit of fleece might protect you. An air frost is much more penetrating, so you may have to do something about it.